The rain tastes like salt and regret. Elena hardly doesn't bother wiping it from her face anymore. Her knees have been pressed into the mud for 20 minutes now, the cold seeping through her black dress, through her skin, settling somewhere deep in her bones where warmth used to live. The marble headstone is slick under her trembling fingers as she traces each gold letter slowly, carefully, like she's done every Tuesday for the past 3 months. Vincent Sterling, 1975 to 2025. Beloved philanthropist. Visionary leader. The words carved into stone don't mention what he really was. They never do. Her hands won't stop shaking. She tells herself it's the cold. It's not the cold. The cemetery empties out around 6 p.m. Elena knows this because she's timed it, studied it, memorized the patterns of grief that other people follow. The morning mourners who come with fresh coffee and newspapers to read aloud. The lunch hour visitors who sprint between graves like they're checking items off a to-do list. The evening stragglers who linger until the light fades. But by 6:15, she's always alone. Just her and Vincent, and the silence that stretches between the living and the dead like an ocean too wide to cross. She arranged white roses against the headstone this morning. They're already browning at the edges, petals scattering across the grass like tiny surrender flags. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of wet earth and cut grass and something else, something that reminds her of the lemon polish she used to use in his study. 15 years of polishing the same desk. 15 years of learning the weight of his silence. The envelope crinkles in her coat pocket when she shifts her weight. She doesn't want to look at it again. Doesn't want to see those words stamped in cold corporate font across Sterling Estate Management letterhead. But her fingers find it anyway, pulling it out like a tongue finding a loose tooth, unable to stop pressing where it hurts most. Termination notice. 30 days to vacate the staff cottage. Effective immediately upon Mr. Sterling's death. All household staff contracts rendered null and void. Please coordinate with Bradley Carrington, interim CEO, for final arrangements. 15 years erased in 3 sentences. 15 years of waking at 5 a.m. to brew his coffee exactly how he liked it. Dark roast, no cream, 1 sugar. 15 years of washing his shirts and organizing his files and pretending she was invisible while he worked. 15 years of medical insurance that saved her daughter's life. Gone. Just gone. The tears come hot and angry, mixing with the rain on her cheeks. Elena presses her forehead against the marble, and it's so cold it burns. "I never got to tell you," she whispers, and her voice cracks apart like glass. "About Maya. About why I needed this job so badly." The stone doesn't answer. The dead never do. You saved us and you never even knew. That's the part that destroys her. He never knew. Never knew that every medical bill he approved, every stipend that appeared in her account marked family emergency allowance, every car service voucher for hospital appointments, he saved her daughter's life and treated it like paperwork. Like it was nothing. Like it didn't mean Elena would have walked through fire for him. She would have. She did. The night she found him collapsed over his desk, lips blue, pulse barely there, she did CPR for 8 minutes while the ambulance screamed through traffic. 8 minutes of compressions that left bruises on his chest. 8 minutes of breathing life back into a man who barely acknowledged her existence. The doctors said she saved him. He thanked her once, formal and distant, like she'd picked up his dry cleaning. 3 months later, he was dead anyway. Massive heart attack. The second one always wins. Between the distant oak trees, something moves. Elena's breath catches, and she looks up slowly, rain streaming into her eyes. A figure stands motionless in the shadows, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that looks too expensive for a cemetery groundskeeper. The collar is turned up against the rain. From this distance, maybe 60 feet, Elena can't make out features. Can't see if they're watching her or just taking shelter under the trees. But something in her chest tightens. Some animal instinct that says, "You're not alone." The figure doesn't move, doesn't step forward or call out, or do any of the things a normal person would do if they stumbled across someone crying at a grave. They just stand there, watching. The trees drip rain around them, and the sky behind them is bruised purple, and Elena's hands go very still against the headstone. She should feel afraid, should feel vulnerable, alone in an empty cemetery with a stranger watching from the trees. But all she feels is exhausted, Let them watch. Let them see what grief looks like up close. Let them witness how a life can shatter so completely that you end up talking to stones and expecting answers. She reaches into her other pocket with fingers that have gone numb. The photograph is wrapped in plastic to keep it dry, but the edges are worn soft from handling. She's carried it every day for 3 months, unable to leave it at home, unable to let it go. Maya at her 8th grade graduation, 14 years old, alive, healthy, smiling so wide her eyes disappear into crescents of pure joy. This is her, Elena whispers, placing the photo gently against the headstone, right below Vincent's name. This is why I stayed. This is why I would have done anything. The wind immediately tries to lift it, threatening to send her daughter's face tumbling across the cemetery like trash. Elena grabs a river stone from the border of the grave plot, pressing it down on top of the plastic-wrapped photo, holding it in place, holding her daughter against Vincent's name like they're finally meeting. She wants to be a doctor, Elena says, and her voice is steadier now, stronger. She's taking advanced biology. She volunteers at the children's hospital on Saturdays. She tells the kids there about her treatment, about how scared she was, about how sometimes you have to fight even when you don't think you can win. A sob breaks through. You gave her that. You gave her life and time and a future. And I never got to tell you thank you. Not really. Not the way I needed to. Behind her, between the trees, the figure takes one step forward. Just one. A branch snaps under their foot, sharp and loud in the quiet cemetery. Elena's head whips around, but the figure has already stopped. Frozen. She can feel their eyes on her even though she can't see them clearly through the rain and distance and gathering darkness. Her heart hammers against her ribs. "Hello," she calls out, her voice carrying across the wet grass. No response, just the sound of rain and wind and her own ragged breathing. Is someone there? The figure turns, slowly, deliberately, and then they walk away, disappearing into the shadows between the oak trees like they were never there at all. Like Elena imagined them. Like grief has finally driven her to seeing ghosts in empty spaces. She turns back to the headstone, to Vincent's name, to her daughter's photograph pressed against cold marble. Her hands are shaking worse now. From cold, from fear, from something she can't name but feels like hope rotting at the edges. I have to leave the cottage next month, she tells him, tells the stone, tells the silence. Bradley's kicking out all the staff. He's selling everything you built. The Cancer Research Fund, the Family Medical Program, everything. And I can't stop him. I'm nobody. Just the maid who cleaned your floors. The rain drums harder. The sky darkens. And somewhere in the distance, between trees Elena can barely see anymore, someone is watching. Someone who knows her name. Someone who grips tree bark until his knuckles turn white. Someone who is supposed to be dead. But Elena doesn't know that yet. All she knows is grief and rain and the taste of goodbye. Drop a fire in the comments if you already feel this in your chest. "15 years earlier, the Sterling mansion doesn't look real. It looks like something ripped from a magazine Elena could never afford to buy, all glass and stone and iron gates that probably cost more than her car. More than 5 of her cars. The morning sun hits those floor-to-ceiling windows just right, reflecting clouds back at the sky like the house is trying to touch heaven. Elena stands at the service entrance because someone like her doesn't walk through the front door of a place like this. Someone like her goes around back where the garbage bins are kept, and the help enters, and nobody has to see you arriving. She's 23 years old, and she feels ancient. The blazer she's wearing came from Goodwill 3 days ago, navy blue with one button missing that she covered with a safety pin and a prayer. Her shirt is pressed so hard there are shine marks on the collar. Her shoes are the only pair she owns that aren't sneakers, black flats with a scuff on the left toe that she colored in with Sharpie at 4 in the morning. The folder in her hands is trembling because her hands are trembling because everything inside her is trembling. 1-page resume. 3 jobs. All housekeeping. This is all she has. This is all she is. The door opens before she can knock. A woman in her 60s, steel gray hair pulled back so tight it must hurt, looks Elena up and down with eyes that miss nothing. "You're early," the woman says. Not impressed. Just stating a fact. "I'm Margaret Finch. Head of household. Follow me and don't touch anything. The hallways inside smell like lemon polish and money. That's the only way Elena can describe it. Money has a smell, clean and cold and expensive, like the air itself costs more to breathe here. Margaret moves fast for someone her age, heels clicking against marble floors that shine like mirrors. Mr. Sterling requires discretion above all else, Margaret says without turning around, her voice echoing off walls decorated with paintings Elena recognizes from art history class. He values his privacy. You'll clean his study, his bedroom wing, and his private library. You'll arrive at 5:30 each morning. You'll leave when your work is finished. You'll never speak unless spoken to. Elena's throat goes dry. Never speak unless spoken to. Like she's furniture. Like she's less than human. But she nods even though Margaret isn't looking, because Maya needs this job. Maya needs the health insurance that comes with this job. Maya needs experimental treatment that costs $45,000 a month, and Elena would crawl through broken glass to get it. They pass other staff members in the hallways. A maintenance worker in coveralls carrying a toolbox. A cook in white uniform heading toward what must be the kitchen. None of them meet Elena's eyes. The maintenance worker leans close to the cook, whispers something Elena almost doesn't catch. The cook shakes her head slowly, definitively. Elena only catches 2 words, but they land like punches. Won't last. Her stomach twists. How many people has Margaret walked down these same hallways? How many nervous girls in Goodwill blazers has Vincent Sterling chewed up and spit out? The folder in Elena's hands feels lighter suddenly, worthless, like her 1-page resume is a joke she doesn't get yet. Margaret stops at a massive oak door, hand on the brass handle. This is his study. He's inside now. She looks at Elena for the first time with something almost like pity. Try not to embarrass yourself. Then she opens the door and steps aside, and Elena has no choice but to walk through. The room smells like leather and coffee and something else. Power maybe. Old money. Vincent Sterling sits behind a desk the size of Elena's entire kitchen, and he doesn't look up. 49 years old according to the research she did at the library. Silver threads through dark hair that probably costs $200 to cut. 3 computer screens glow in front of him, numbers and charts Elena can't begin to understand. The chair he sits in looks hand-carved. The rug under his desk probably costs more than Elena's annual salary. You're the replacement, he says without looking up. Not a question. A statement. His voice is rough silk, the kind of voice that's used to being obeyed. The last 3 quit within a month. Think you're different. This is where Elena should bow her head, should say something deferential and small and forgettable. Yes, sir. I'll work hard, sir. I won't disappoint you, sir. This is where she should play the role he expects. But Maya is in the hospital right now, getting her 3rd round of chemotherapy, and it's not working. The tumors are growing. The doctors used the word aggressive yesterday, and Elena hasn't slept since. So instead she looks directly at him. Directly at Vincent Sterling, billionaire, CEO, man who owns this mansion and probably half the city. I have a 6-year-old daughter with leukemia, she says, and her voice doesn't shake even though her hands do. I need health insurance that covers her experimental treatment. If this job provides that, I'll clean your floors with my bare hands if you ask me to. The silence that follows could crush buildings. Vincent Sterling's hands stop moving on his keyboard. He goes completely still, like someone hit pause on him. And then slowly, so slowly Elena can count her own heartbeats, he looks up. Really looks at her. His eyes are gray. Storm gray. Ocean gray. The kind of gray that goes on forever. 5 seconds pass. Neither of them breathes. Elena can hear her own pulse in her ears, can feel sweat forming at the base of her spine despite the air conditioning. She just gambled everything on honesty. She just told a billionaire that she's desperate, that she'll do anything, that she needs him. Vincent Sterling leans back in his chair, studies her face like he's reading a book written in a language only he understands. Comment hired if you know she's about to change everything. 7 years pass in careful silence, and Elena learns to read Vincent Sterling the way sailors learn to read the ocean. Black coffee at 6 a.m., always in the same mug, the one with the chip on the handle he refuses to replace. Study door closed until noon unless there's an emergency, and Elena learns quickly that emergency means billion-dollar emergency, not someone forgot to order printer paper emergency. He takes his afternoon calls by the east window where the light hits differently, turns everything gold, and she knows not to vacuum near there between 2 and 4 p.m. She dusts around him like he's furniture. He reads his reports like she's invisible. It works. It shouldn't work, the strange dance of proximity and distance, but it does. Maya's treatment is working. That's the only thing that matters. The experimental drug trial costs $45,000 per month, and Sterling's health plan covers every cent. Every single cent. Elena never asks why he approved it, never questions the logic of a corporation spending that kind of money on a housekeeper's daughter, never looks the gift horse in the mouth because the gift horse is keeping her daughter alive. There's an extra stipend too, appears in her account on the 15th of every month like clockwork, marked family medical allowance. $2,000. Enough to cover the gas for hospital trips, the co-pays for physical therapy, the special diet Maya's doctors recommend. Elena keeps her head down and polishes silver until the surface reflects her own tired face back at her, older now, harder, but still standing. But small things shift in year 5. Subtle things. Vincent starts leaving books out in places Elena cleans. Medical journals about pediatric oncology. Articles printed from research databases about childhood cancer survivors and long-term remission rates. He never mentions them. Never makes eye contact when Elena quietly reshelves them. But they're always there, pages dog-eared at specific passages, sections highlighted in yellow. Elena reads them when she dusts, learns words like relapse prevention and survivor advocacy and post-treatment monitoring. Learns that Vincent Sterling is educating himself about her daughter's disease without ever speaking a word about it. One Tuesday, Elena finds a note on her cleaning cart written on Sterling Estate letterhead. There's a car service voucher in the staff office. For Maya's hospital appointments. Use it. No signature. No explanation. Vincent isn't even home when she reads it. She asks Margaret about it later, and Margaret just shrugs, says Mr. Sterling authorized it months ago, says Elena should count herself lucky. Lucky. Like luck has anything to do with a man who watches from the shadows of his own life, helping people he won't acknowledge. The other staff notice. Of course they notice. Nothing happens in this house without everyone knowing, without the gossip spreading through the kitchen and the laundry room and the garage. Margaret pulls Elena aside one afternoon in the linen closet, smelling like fabric softener and disapproval. You need to be careful, Margaret hisses, her fingers tight around Elena's wrist. Mr. Sterling doesn't do kindness. Not like this. Whatever this is, it's something else. Don't mistake his generosity for friendship. Don't mistake his attention for affection. People who get close to him end up hurt. Elena wants to defend him. Wants to say that Vincent Sterling is just a good man who doesn't know how to show it. But the words stick in her throat because Margaret's right. She doesn't know Vincent Sterling at all. She knows his coffee order. She knows which books he reads and which shirts he prefers and how he takes his calls by the east window. But the man himself? He's a stranger who pays for her daughter's life and won't meet her eyes in hallways. That night, there's an envelope on Elena's cottage doorstep. Plain manila. Her name written across the front in that same careful handwriting from the car service note. Inside are receipts. Hundreds of pages of medical receipts. Every payment made for Maya over 7 years. Every treatment. Every scan. Every medication. Every hospital stay. The numbers climb into the millions. Elena's hands shake so badly she nearly drops them. At the bottom of the stack, there's a handwritten note on personal stationery, not company letterhead. The paper is thick and cream-colored and expensive. The words are simple. She'll beat this. Children like her always fight hardest. It's not signed. But Elena knows his handwriting from the grocery lists she's seen on his desk, the doctor's appointments he writes down and never explains, the notes he leaves for himself in the margins of contracts. She presses the note against her chest and cries for the first time in 7 years. Not sad tears. Not grateful tears. Something else entirely. Something that feels like recognition. Like being seen by someone who's supposed to be invisible to her, just like she's invisible to him. If you've ever had someone help you without asking for anything back, you know this feeling. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Elena arrives for the night shift because Vincent requested someone on call while he works late, and she's the only one who said yes when Margaret asked. The others have families to go home to, lives that exist beyond these walls. Elena has Maya, asleep at her grandmother's house, safe and cancer-free for 2 years now. So she says yes. She always says yes. It's 2:47 in the morning, and the mansion is so quiet she can hear her own heartbeat echoing off marble floors. The study light still burns at the end of the east hallway, a strip of yellow under the door like a warning. She knocks. No answer. Knocks again, harder. "Mr. Sterling?" Her voice sounds too loud in the empty hallway, bouncing back at her like an accusation. She waits, counts to 10, turns the handle. He's slumped over his desk, and for one horrible second Elena thinks he's just sleeping, just fell asleep working like he does sometimes. But his arm is hanging limp, fingers brushing the floor. Papers are scattered everywhere like fallen leaves after a storm, and there's something wrong with his color. His skin is gray. Not tired gray. Not working too hard gray. Death gray. Elena's training as a hospital aide kicks in before fear does, before thought does, before anything else. She's at his side in 3 steps, fingers pressing against his neck searching for a pulse. It's there but it's wrong. Erratic. Weak. Thready. His skin is clammy and cold, and there are prescription bottles lined up along the desk edge like little soldiers. She doesn't recognize the names. Doesn't matter. She grabs her phone with shaking hands, dials 911, puts it on speaker. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice is calm, professional, completely at odds with the panic clawing up Elena's throat. He's unconscious. Weak pulse. I think it's his heart. She's already tilting his head back, checking for breathing. It's shallow. Too shallow. The operator talks her through chest compressions, and Elena positions her hands over Vincent Sterling's sternum and pushes. Hard. Harder than she thought she'd have to. His ribs flex under her palms and she counts out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. She loses track of time. Could be 2 minutes. Could be 10. Her arms burn. Sweat drips into her eyes. She keeps going. The ambulance arrives in 8 minutes, but it feels like hours. EMTs flood the study with equipment and competence, and Elena steps back with aching arms and terror in her chest. They work on him with practiced efficiency, calling out numbers and medications that mean nothing to her. Does he have family? One of them asks while they load Vincent onto a stretcher, and Elena realizes with a jolt that she doesn't know. 15 years in this house. 15 years of making his coffee and washing his clothes and reading the medical journals he leaves out for her. She knows he takes 2 sugars in his coffee and prefers Egyptian cotton sheets and reads by the east window when the light is right. But family? Emergency contacts? The name of someone who loves him? Nothing. I'll ride with him, Elena says, and her voice doesn't shake even though everything inside her is shaking. Nobody argues. The hospital waiting room smells like disinfectant and bad coffee. Elena sits in a plastic chair and watches the sky turn from black to gray to pink through windows that need cleaning. Her hands still smell like Vincent's cologne. Her shirt has his blood on it from the 4 the EMTs placed. At 6:15, a doctor with exhausted eyes and wrinkled scrubs finds her. "Are you family?" he asks, and Elena shakes her head. "I'm his. What is she?" What are they to each other after 15 years of silence and medical payments and books left out like breadcrumbs? His housekeeper. The doctor's expression shifts. Closes. Professional distance, snapping into place like a door slamming. I can't share information with non-family. HIPAA regulations. He pauses, softens slightly. But you saved his life tonight. He was minutes away from a fatal heart attack. Minutes. If you hadn't found him when you did, if you hadn't done CPR, he doesn't finish. Doesn't have to. 3 days later, Vincent is discharged. Elena is cleaning the study when he appears in the doorway, and she doesn't hear him arrive. Doesn't know he's there until she turns around and finds him watching her. He's thinner, moving carefully like his body is fragile and might break. But alive. Alive. They stare at each other across the room, and all the unspoken years between them suddenly feel deafening. The silence is so heavy Elena can barely breathe under the weight of it. "You called the ambulance," Vincent says finally. His voice is rougher than usual, scraped raw. "You saved my life." Elena nods because her throat has closed around words she doesn't know how to say. Vincent takes one step into the room. Just one. Why? It's the first real question he's ever asked her. Drop why in the comments if you know this is about to get complicated. Vincent doesn't wait for Elena to answer. He turns slowly, walks to the coffee maker in the corner of his study, the one Elena installed years ago because he works such long hours. His movements are careful, deliberate, like he's learning how to inhabit his body again after it betrayed him. He pours 2 cups of coffee. Black. 1 sugar each. He knows how she takes hers, even though they've never had coffee together. Hands 1 to Elena. She takes it because she doesn't know what else to do with her hands, with this moment, with the question still hanging in the air between them. Sit, Vincent says, gesturing to the leather chairs by the window. She's never sat in these chairs before. Italian leather that probably costs more than her car, more than everything she owns. He sits across from her, and for the first time in 15 years they exist in the same space as equals. Not employer and employee, not billionaire and housekeeper. Just 2 people who've been circling each other's lives without ever really meeting until right now. I need to tell you something, Vincent says, and his hands shake slightly around the coffee cup. Not from weakness, from something else. Fear maybe. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Something that explains. He stops. Starts again. 8 years ago, my daughter died of leukemia. She was 6 years old. Elena's breath catches in her throat. The coffee cup freezes halfway to her lips. Vincent stares into his coffee like it holds answers, like if he looks hard enough he'll see something other than his own reflection in the dark surface. Her name was Sophie. Same age as Maya when you started working here. When you came into this study for that interview, when you told me you had a daughter with leukemia, when you said you'd clean my floors with your bare hands if it meant saving her, his voice breaks apart like glass. He stops, swallows hard. I saw Sophie. I saw myself 8 years earlier, willing to do anything. Give anything. Sacrifice anything. The morning light through the east window turns everything gold. Elena can see dust motes floating in the air between them, can see the lines around Vincent's eyes that weren't there 15 years ago, can see the grief carved into his face like something permanent. I couldn't save Sophie, he says, and each word sounds like it costs him. I had the best doctors, the most expensive treatments, clinical trials in Switzerland and Germany and Japan. I threw money at it until I ran out of places to throw money. And she died anyway, in her sleep, in a hospital room that cost $15,000 a day. She died holding a stuffed rabbit and asking for her mother. Elena's vision blurs. She sets down her coffee cup because her hands are shaking too badly to hold it. Vincent, she starts, but he shakes his head. And then you walked into my house with a daughter fighting the same monster, and I thought. He looks up finally, meets her eyes, and his are raw and red and devastating. I thought maybe I could save one. Just one. Even if she'd never know who paid for it. Even if you'd never know. I thought maybe if I could save Maya, it would mean Sophie's death wasn't completely meaningless. Elena sets down her cup before she drops it. Her hands are shaking. Her whole body is shaking. You let me think it was the company health insurance, she says, and it's not an accusation. Just a fact. Just a truth being spoken out loud for the first time. Vincent nods. If you'd known it was me personally, you would have refused. Pride. Dignity. You would have said you couldn't accept that kind of charity. I've read enough about you to know that. He has files. He studied her. He knows things about her she didn't realize anyone was paying attention to. The thought should feel invasive, should feel like a violation. It doesn't. Maya's 14 now, Elena whispers and her voice cracks. She's been cancer-free for 6 years. She plays soccer. Forward position. She wants to be a doctor. She volunteers at the children's hospital and tells the kids there about her treatment, about how scared she was, about how it gets better. Vincent's eyes close. A single tear tracks down his face, cutting a path through 15 years of careful distance. I know, he says, so quietly Elena almost doesn't hear it. I get monthly updates from her treatment team. I have every school photo you've ever taken, every report card, every soccer trophy. I have all of it. The admission hangs between them like a bridge made of glass, fragile and dangerous and beautiful. Elena should feel angry, should feel violated that this man has been watching her daughter grow up from the shadows, collecting pieces of Maya's life like souvenirs. but all she feels is understood, seen, known. If this hit you like a truck, you're not alone. Come an automobile and subscribe, because tomorrow's story will wreck you even harder. 2 months pass, and Elena learns what it means to exist in the same space as Vincent Sterling without pretending to be invisible. They have coffee together now, every morning at 6:30. They don't talk much, but the silence between them feels different. Comfortable, like they're both learning a new language and taking it slow. Maya knows about Vincent now. Elena told her everything. Maya cried and wrote him a thank you card with glitter that got everywhere, and Vincent keeps it in his desk drawer where he thinks Elena doesn't know about it. Things are good. Things are finally impossibly good. And then Bradley Carrington shows up. Elena is polishing the banister on the main staircase when the front door opens without a knock, without warning, without permission. A man in his 30s walks in like he owns the place. Maybe he thinks he does. He's wearing a suit that costs more than Elena makes in 6 months. All sharp lines and perfect tailoring. His cologne hits her before he does. Expensive and overwhelming, the kind of scent that announces wealth and entitlement from across a room. Bradley Carrington, Vincent's nephew, the only living relative. Elena knows about him from the staff gossip, from the way Margaret's mouth tightens when his name comes up. He doesn't acknowledge Elena's existence, doesn't even glance her direction, just walks past like she's part of the furniture, heading straight for Vincent's study. The raised voices start 30 seconds later. Elena shouldn't listen. Should keep polishing brass and minding her own business like she's done for 15 years. But the study door is cracked open, and the voices carry, and she can't make herself move away. "Uncle, you're not thinking clearly," Bradley says, and his voice is smooth oil, slick and dangerous. "This heart attack has obviously affected your judgment. I've reviewed your financials. The medical expenses for some housekeeper's kid, the salary increases, the trust fund you established in her name." He says housekeeper like it's a disease. It's inappropriate. It's erratic. The board is concerned. Elena's hands stop moving on the banister. Her heart is suddenly too loud in her chest. "Get out of my house." Vincent's voice is ice. Pure ice. Elena has never heard him sound like this. Not in 15 years. Not even when he fired the head of acquisitions for embezzlement. "Elena saved my life. I'm setting up provisions for her and Maya in my will. That's final. Now get out before I have security remove you." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Bradley laughs, and it's the coldest sound Elena has ever heard. "You realize how this looks, don't you? The billionaire bachelor with a pretty young maid? People will talk, uncle. They already are. Your board already questions your decisions. This just gives them ammunition. I'm not afraid of rumors." But Vincent's voice wavers. Just slightly. Just enough. Bradley pounces on it like a predator scenting blood. "Maybe you should be. I've already drafted a competency evaluation. 3 board members have agreed to sign. 1 more hard episode, 1 more erratic decision, and I'll have you declared unfit to manage your affairs. I'll contest the will on grounds of diminished capacity. Elena gets nothing. That trust fund for her daughter? Gone. And you'll spend your final years in a care facility while I run Sterling Enterprises the way it should be run. Profitably." Elena's vision tunnels. Her hands grip the banister, so hard her knuckles turn white. She hears footsteps. Bradley walking out of the study, walking past her again without a glance. The front door opens and closes. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like the end of the world. That night, Elena finds Vincent standing at his bedroom window, staring into darkness. She shouldn't be here. This is his private wing. But the rules feel different now. Everything feels different. "I heard," she admits, because lying feels impossible. Vincent doesn't turn around. His reflection in the window looks haunted. "I'm going to fix this," he says quietly. "I have a plan. My lawyers are already working on it." "But Elena!" He finally turns, finally looks at her, and she sees something in his eyes she's never seen before. Fear. Real fear. If something happens to me before we finish this, Bradley will destroy everything. The foundation, the cancer research fund, the trust for Maya's future. He'll dismantle it all piece by piece. I can't let that happen. Comment A if you trust Vincent's plan. B if you think something terrible is coming. 3 weeks later, Elena's phone rings at 11:47 p.m. She's asleep when it happens, dreaming about something she won't remember. The number on the screen is the hospital. Sterling Memorial. Her heart knows before her brain does. Miss Hartley! The voice is professional, practiced, gentle in that specific way that means terrible news. Mr. Sterling has been admitted. He collapsed at home. Massive heart attack. You should come now. Elena races through rain that turns the roads into rivers, her hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, her breath coming in gasps that fog the windshield. She's still wearing her pajamas under her coat. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters except getting there in time. Except being there when he wakes up like she was last time. Except saving him again, because that's what she does. That's what they do for each other now. But the doctor stops her in the hallway before she reaches his room. He's young, this doctor. Too young. Elena doesn't recognize him. I'm sorry, he says, and his hand is on her arm, gentle, restraining. We did everything we could. He's gone. The funeral happens 4 days later, and it's enormous. Business moguls in $1,000 suits. Politicians who probably never met Vincent, but show up for the cameras. Celebrities whose foundations he funded. The church is so full people stand in the aisles. Elena stands in the back with Margaret and the other household staff, wearing her only black dress, the same one she wore to her mother's funeral 3 years ago. Bradley delivers the eulogy from a podium that seems too high, too grand, too everything. He talks about legacy and vision and leadership, words that sound important and mean nothing. Empty words from an empty man. His eyes scan the crowd and land on Elena once. He smiles. It's not friendly. It's triumphant. After the service, after the casket is lowered into earth that's been specially prepared, manicured, made perfect even for the dead, Bradley finds Elena in the parking lot. He's holding an envelope, white, crisp, her name written across the front in impersonal typeface. Your termination notice, he says pleasantly. Too pleasantly. Effective immediately. You have 30 days to vacate the staff cottage. Keys to the property must be returned to estate management by the end of the month. He hands it to her, walks away, doesn't look back. But something's wrong. Elena feels it in her bones, in her gut, in the way the air tastes wrong when she breathes. The casket was closed. Vincent specified cremation in his will. She heard Margaret mention it. Elena never saw the body, never saw proof. The doctor who pronounced him dead wasn't Dr. Morrison, Vincent's cardiologist of 20 years. It was someone young, someone Elena had never seen before, someone whose name she can't even remember now. That night, there's a single sticky note tucked under her cottage door. Yellow, square, the kind Vincent used to leave on her cleaning cart. 3 lines in handwriting she'd recognize anywhere, handwriting she's seen on grocery lists and appointment reminders, and that one note about children fighting hardest. Trust me. Protect Maya. Watch Bradley. Elena's hands shake so badly she almost tears it. She reads it 5 times, 10 times, until the words blur together and stop making sense. Until she's not sure if it's real or if grief has finally broken something inside her brain. She pulls up news articles on her laptop with fingers that won't stop trembling. Sterling Enterprises stock prices, board meeting minutes, press releases. Bradley has taken over as interim CEO. He's already selling off Vincent's charitable foundations. The Pediatric Cancer Research Fund that was supposed to run for 50 years? Sold to a pharmaceutical company. The Family Medical Assistance Program? Terminated. All staff benefits packages under review. Maya's continued medical monitoring appointments? Cancelled. The allowance that showed up every month? The last deposit was the day Vincent died. Bradley is systematically erasing every trace of Vincent's generosity like it never existed. 3 months of this. 3 months of visiting Vincent's grave every Tuesday at 6 p.m. when the cemetery empties. 3 months of crying into marble and telling a dead man things she never got to say when he was alive. 3 months of watching Bradley give interviews on business news channels, smiling that same terrible smile, talking about efficiency and profitability and streamlining operations. 3 months of wondering if that sticky note was real or just her mind breaking under the weight of grief. Until today, until she looked up from the gravestone and saw a figure standing between the oak trees. Until something in her chest whispered one impossible word. Alive. If you just figured it out, Drop eyes and make sure you're subscribed because the next part changes everything. Vincent Sterling watches Elena on 6 different monitors and feels like the worst kind of voyeur. Cemetery camera feeds, angles from the north gate, the oak trees, the maintenance shed, the chapel entrance. She comes every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Same time, same route through the headstones, same desperate prayers whispered to marble that can't hear her. His chest physically hurts watching her kneel in the mud. Not the heart condition, though that's real enough. The cardiologist said he was lucky to survive the first attack. This pain is different, sharper, located somewhere deeper than muscle and valves. Guilt, the kind that eats you alive from the inside out. The penthouse apartment is temporary, borrowed from a college friend who winters in Monaco and doesn't ask questions. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, millions of lights spreading out like stars brought down to earth. Vincent hasn't looked at the view in 3 months. Can't look at anything except these monitors. Except Elena breaking apart in real time while he hides like a coward. The fake death was Marcus's idea. Marcus Rothstein, his lawyer for 30 years, the only person besides Elena who knows Vincent is still alive. It's the only way to expose Bradley's true intentions, Marcus had said in that careful lawyer voice, laying out documents and precedents and legal strategies across Vincent's hospital bed the day after the real heart attack. Let him think he's won. Let him think you're gone. He'll show his hand. He'll make moves he wouldn't dare make otherwise. We document everything. Build an airtight case. Then you rise from the dead with legal grounds to contest his every move, remove him from the company, and protect everything you've built. Vincent agreed because he thought he was protecting Elena. Thought he was being smart, strategic. He didn't count on watching her break. Didn't count on how it would feel to see her cry over his grave every single week while he sits in a borrowed apartment eating takeout and collecting evidence. His phone buzzes on the desk. Text from Marcus. Bradley's lawyers filed paperwork to demolish staff cottages. Development deal with Harmon Properties. Elena has 30 days to vacate. Vincent reads it twice, 3 times. Then he throws the phone across the room with enough force that it shatters against the wall, screen spiderwebbing, pieces scattering across expensive hardwood. Every week Marcus tells him the same thing. 1 more week of evidence. 1 more week, and they'll have enough. 1 more week, and he can reveal the truth. But the weeks keep stretching, and Elena keeps breaking, and Vincent keeps watching like watching is somehow better than acting. But tonight something's different. Elena reaches into her pocket and pulls out a photograph. Vincent leans forward, fingers flying across the keyboard to zoom the Northgate camera. It's Maya. He'd recognize that smile anywhere. 8th grade graduation photo. The one Elena showed him 2 months before he died. Her voice full of pride talking about Maya's acceptance to the advanced science program. Elena places the photo against the headstone. Vincent can't hear what she's saying, but he can read her lips well enough after 3 months of this. She's telling him about Maya's dreams, about medical school applications, about the daughter Vincent has watched grow up through medical reports and secret surveillance, and stolen glances at school photos Elena keeps in her wallet. Elena is sharing her daughter with a dead man. Vincent realizes with a jolt that tears his chest open, she's saying goodbye. Not to him, to hope itself. He's on his feet before he decides to move, grabbing his coat from the chair, his keys from the counter. The cemetery is 20 minutes away. He can make it in 15. His phone rings, or what's left of it tries to ring from the floor. The backup phone on the kitchen counter lights up. Marcus calling. Vincent answers because Marcus will just keep calling. Don't, Marcus says immediately. No preamble, no greeting. Whatever you're thinking, don't do it. We're so close. 2 more weeks, and we have everything we need to bury Bradley legally. Vincent is already at the door, coat half on, keys in hand. I'm done watching her suffer for my plan. Marcus's voice rises, panic bleeding through professional composure. Vincent, listen to me. If you reveal yourself now, Bradley wins. He'll claim fraud, mental incompetence, manipulation. He'll say you faked your death to avoid the competency evaluation. He'll drag Elena through every tabloid and courtroom in the state. You'll lose everything, including the ability to protect Elena and Maya. Is that what you want? Vincent's hand freezes on the doorknob. Subscribe right now, because what Vincent decides next will destroy you. Vincent's hand stays frozen on the doorknob for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds where Marcus's words echo in his head about losing everything, about dragging Elena through courtrooms, about Bradley winning. 3 seconds where he weighs protection against truth, strategy against honesty, his plan against her pain. Then he opens the door. "I'm sorry, Marcus," he says quietly, "but I'm done being dead." He hangs up, drops the phone on the couch, and walks out into the night. The drive to the cemetery takes 12 minutes. Vincent parks 3 blocks away where the car won't be visible, walks the rest through streets that smell like rain and cut grass. His heart is pounding, but it's not the condition. It's fear. Real fear. The kind that makes your palms sweat and your breath come short. He hasn't seen Elena face to face in 3 months. Hasn't heard her voice except through surveillance equipment. Hasn't touched another human being since the day they lowered an empty casket into the ground, and he watched from a hotel room on a laptop screen. The cemetery is nearly empty. A couple leaving through the south gate, a groundskeeper locking up the maintenance shed, and Elena kneeling at his grave like she does every Tuesday. Vincent stays in the shadows between the oak trees, the same place he stood a dozen times before, watching her from a distance because he's a coward. Because Marcus's plan made sense on paper. Because protecting Elena meant staying dead. But tonight she's placing the photograph of Maya against the headstone again, and Vincent can't watch anymore. Can't hide anymore. Can't keep choosing strategy over the woman who saved his life and then mourned him like her heart was buried in that empty grave too. He steps forward. A branch cracks under his foot. Elena's head turns slightly, but she doesn't look back. "I'm almost finished," she says without turning around, voice rough from crying. She thinks he's the groundskeeper. Thinks he's just another stranger working late. Vincent takes another step, then another, until he's 6 feet behind her. Close enough to smell her shampoo on the wind. Close enough to hear her breathing. "Elena!" he says, and his voice comes out rougher than he intended. She goes completely still. The kind of still that happens when your brain can't process what your ears are hearing. When reality breaks apart and you're not sure which pieces to believe. Then she spins around, and the look on her face breaks something inside Vincent that he didn't know could still break. Vincent stands there in the charcoal coat she saw on the figure in the trees. Alive. Real. Solid. Elena can't breathe. Can't think. Can't do anything except stare while her brain tries to make sense of the impossible. Her knees buckle. Vincent moves forward instinctively to catch her, but she scrambles backward, hands up like he's dangerous, like he's a ghost that might disappear if she touches him. "No. No. You're dead. I watched them lower the casket. I stood here while they covered it with dirt. Her hands shake violently. "You're not real. You can't be real. I had to fake it." The words pour out of Vincent in a desperate rush. No plan, no strategy, just raw honesty bleeding out. Bradley was going to have me declared incompetent. He was going to steal everything, including the trust fund for Maya. My lawyers needed time to gather evidence of his fraud, his embezzlement, his plans to destroy all the charitable foundations. I thought if he believed I was dead, if everyone believed I was dead, he'd make mistakes. Show his true intentions. I thought I was protecting you. You thought what? Elena's voice cracks through the cemetery loud enough to scatter birds from nearby trees. That I'd be fine. That watching you die wouldn't destroy me. I saved your life, Vincent. I did chest compressions for 8 minutes while you were dying, and you repaid me by making me mourn you. She's crying now, angry tears streaming down her face, years of grief and confusion and betrayal pouring out. I come here every week, every single week, and I tell your gravestone things I never told you when you were alive. I tell you about Maya, about her dreams, about how much we miss you, about how, she stops, chokes on the words, can't say them, about how you love me. Vincent's voice is barely a whisper, but it carries across the space between them like a gunshot. Elena freezes, goes completely still. I watched you on the cameras, Vincent continues, and there's no point hiding anything anymore. Every Tuesday, every word you said to that stone. Elena, I've been in love with you for 10 years. Since the day you walked into my study and told me you'd clean floors with your bare hands to save your daughter. I've watched Maya grow up through medical reports because I was too afraid to admit I wanted to be part of your lives. And then I died, or pretended to, and I realized I've wasted every moment I could have spent being honest. The silence between them is so heavy it feels like gravity has increased. Elena stares at him with tears streaming down her face, and Vincent has no idea if she's about to run or scream or collapse. He takes one careful step forward, just one, hands raised in peace, in surrender, in desperate hope. If your heart is racing, drop red hard and hit subscribe because the ending will wreck you. Elena doesn't run, doesn't scream, doesn't collapse. She stands there in the cemetery with tears streaming down her face and stares at Vincent Sterling like she's trying to memorize him, trying to make sure he's real. Then she closes the distance between them in 3 steps and slaps him. Hard. The sound echoes off headstones. Vincent's head snaps to the side. He doesn't move to defend himself. Doesn't say a word. Just takes it. That's for letting me think you were dead, Elena says, voice shaking. Then she kisses him. Desperate. Fierce. 3 months of grief and love and fury poured into one moment. When she pulls back, she's still crying. And that's for coming back. 2 weeks later, the federal courthouse steps are crowded with news cameras and reporters shouting questions that nobody answers. Vincent walks up those steps in a sharp charcoal suit, legal documents tucked under one arm, and he's not alone. Elena is on his right side, wearing a blue dress that makes her look like hope personified. And on his left is Maya, 14 years old, alive, healthy, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing her soccer team jacket because Vincent told her to dress like herself, not like someone she's not. She squeezes his hand as they climb, nervous about the cameras, about the attention, about everything. "Thank you for everything," she whispers, quiet enough that only Vincent hears. He squeezes back, throat tight. "Thank you for giving your mom a reason to never give up." Inside the courtroom, Bradley Carrington sits at the defendant's table looking smaller than he did in Vincent's study 3 months ago. Less polished, less confident. He's facing 17 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit corporate theft. The evidence Vincent's legal team gathered over 3 months is devastating and thorough and absolutely damning. Bank records showing Bradley siphoning funds into offshore accounts. Forged documents authorizing the sale of charitable foundations. Recorded conversations with board members about plans to liquidate Sterling Enterprises piece by piece for personal profit. Bradley's lawyer looks defeated before the hearing even starts, shuffling papers with the energy of a man who knows he's already lost. The judge reads through charges with methodical precision. Bradley's face goes from pale to gray to something close to green. His hands shake on the table. Vincent watches without satisfaction, without triumph, just quiet certainty that this needed to happen. That some people need to face consequences before they stop hurting others. But there's one more surprise. Vincent's lawyer, Marcus Rothstein, stands when the judge finishes. "Your Honor, Mr. Sterling has one additional statement to make for the court record." The judge nods. Vincent rises, and every eye in the courtroom turns to him. News cameras focus. Reporters lean forward. "I'm dissolving Sterling Enterprises," Vincent says clearly, voice carrying to every corner of the room. The entire company, all assets totaling $3.2 billion, is being converted into a nonprofit foundation. The Sterling Hartley Foundation for Pediatric Cancer Research and Family Support. Elena gasps audibly beside him. Her hand flies to her mouth. Her name. He put her name in the foundation. Vincent turns to look at her, and his voice softens. "You saved my life twice. Once with CPR. Once by giving me a reason to stop hiding. Let me spend the rest of my life making sure other parents don't have to beg for their children's survival. Let me make sure no other mother has to choose between rent and treatment, between dignity and desperation." The courtroom is silent. Even the reporters have stopped writing. The judge approves everything with a single stroke of his gavel. Bradley is led away in handcuffs, screaming about appeals and injustice and conspiracy. It doesn't matter. He's finished. Done. Erased from the story that matters. 6 months later, Elena and Vincent get married in the Sterling Mansion's garden on a Saturday in June when the roses are blooming and the air smells like jasmine and new beginnings. Maya is the maid of honor, wearing a dress she picked out herself, holding a bouquet and crying happy tears. Margaret cries through the entire ceremony, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief and pretending she's not. The house is full again, but different now. Not with servants maintaining careful silence, but with laughter. Maya's soccer team. Elena's family who drove in from 3 states away. People Vincent shut out for decades because he thought isolation was safer than connection. That night, standing on the terrace while the party continues inside, Elena asks the question she's been holding for months. Was it worth it? Dying to protect us? Vincent pulls her close, her back against his chest, his arms wrapped around her waist. I didn't die, he says quietly. I finally started living. In the distance, past the lights of a city, the cemetery sits in darkness. His empty grave still there, headstone still carved with his name and dates that tell a lie. A monument to the man he used to be. The man who was too afraid to love, too afraid to be vulnerable, too afraid to admit he needed people as much as they needed him. He's not that man anymore. He's not afraid anymore. To everyone who stayed till the end from Mexico, India, and everywhere else, you just witnessed something special. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button right now. Tomorrow's story is about a janitor who overheard his boss's murder confession and had to clean up the evidence. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Comment justice if this ending satisfied you, and drop a like if you believe in second chances. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to fight for what matters.